All right, so I'm going to get us started, and I think that we've got a really great conversation going on. And because we're having a conversation, I'm going to do my best to keep track of the questions, but forgive me if I miss a question. So first, I just want to welcome everybody. Welcome back. This is the sixth and the last in our Mastering Email Marketing for Casino series. I can't believe it's been 12 weeks. But as I said before, every year with the help of some subject matter experts who you see on your screen right now, we've been able to take topics that are relevant and on the minds of casino marketers and sort of dig into them over a series of weeks. And Mary Lofness, who is on your screen, she was actually part of the very first webinar that we did under Casino Marketing Bootcamp, and Justin Shank was actually the architect of the very first series that we did for social influencers, which you can find on the website if you're interested. It's still really relevant information. Before we get started, just doing a little housekeeping. I'm always asking for topic suggestions because I want what we do to serve casino marketers. So if there's a topic on your mind, please let me know. I stalk most of you, so you can find me on LinkedIn or through my email, or you can send me a chat here. You'll receive an email with the link to today's recording in a few days. And registration is open for all of our regional boot camps, although Midwest is about to close because I only have 4 spots left in that one. But then in November, we're going to Northern Quest. Justin is going to be there. And then we're also, and Aaron is going to be teaching a session at Northern Quest also. That's going to be a remarkably wonderful, life-changing message, I think. And then we're also going to be at Tachi Palace doing our first event on the West Coast. And I'll send you some links on that. I think the Q&A and the chat may be working. I do know the reactions are working, so you can always click below and send your favorite little emojis up to anybody if you agree or disagree with what they say. But for now, let me start with introducing our esteemed panelists. Justin, since I see you first, do you want to introduce yourself first and then pass it off to the next group?
Sure. Thank you again for having me, Julia. And I'm Justin Shank. I started the Shank Marketing Company in 2017 after working for a number of years at the Swinomish Casino and Lodge. Prior to that, I was a publicist for movie studios. So my background kind of comes from trying to figure out social media and digital marketing as a publicist, which is an exciting time. And I've kind of taken that, and now we work with casinos, tribes in all over the U.S. And have a really great, network of people that we work with, like Julia and Mary, and we also work with the Seven Feathers team. So happy to have them on the call. And I've known Aaron for a long time, so I'm excited that we're all here. Thank you.
Okay, since you mentioned Aaron, let's go to Aaron.
Hey there, afternoon everyone. Aaron Harn. I'm the VP of Marketing and Player Development for Wild Rose Casinos and Hotels in Iowa. We have 3 rural regional properties here in the state. Coming up on 20 years in the gaming industry, believe it or not. It doesn't feel like it's been that long, but primary focus is marketing and analytics. And of course, I think I know everyone on the call except for the Vicky and her crew. So glad to be here, happy to be here, and looking forward to the discussion.
Great. Vicky and Annette, you want to tell everybody who you are, what you do, where you're from?
Yeah, my name is Vicky Camarina, and I am the marketing executive. I work with the Tribe and Seven Feathers Casino. So we're excited to be here to be discussing some digital marketing with you. And
I'm Annette Stumbo. I am an advertising and marketing specialist here at Seven Feathers. This is my 28th year in the gaming industry. So,
yay!
Yeah, a lot of years. I don't have as many years.
Mary, do you have 28 years? No, huh?
Yes, I
do too.
A lot of years.
And you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, or you want us just to dive into questions?
I'm Mary Lofness. My company's Profitable Customers. I help casinos large and small across the United States with their data, with their one-to-one marketing, customer relationship management, assessing customer profitability, all those non-mass media things. So I'm excited to be here. I'm probably famous in the industry as the last person saying mail your newsletter, and I'm becoming more flexible. But yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Well, speaking of newsletters, I'm going to start with you, Annette and Vicki, because you've been on your newsletter 100% digital for some time now. So tell us, like, what prompted that decision, and how has it impacted your revenue and your customer engagement?
Yeah, I'll let Annette start.
Okay, so going 100% digital was something that we had kind of had in the works, thought about it for quite some time. It's very expensive to mail pieces out. But what prompted it at the time that we did go forward actually had to do with the pandemic and not wanting to send out physical mailers. So that was what kind of spurned the whole program into action. We had done some substantial advertising before we actually went digital, so that people would have an opportunity to get our email for us. That they knew that it was coming. It just wasn't kind of a shot, out of the blue, like, oh, last month you got a newsletter, but this month you don't get anything because we all of a sudden went digital. So it was something that we had led into for several months before we actually did it. So the pushback was not as severe as people might think, and it just made sense with the environment at the time.
Yeah, I mean, the cost of doing a mailer is significant, as many of you know, and so going to a email based definitely reduces the cost by far. Not only the cost, but the time to turn around a mailing piece is 7 to 10 business days, and then you're at the mercy of the post office. So if you have a promotion you're trying to get through to your certain players, they may miss that promotion. That's happened for sure. So we definitely that timeline, you can get things to people so much quicker, and making you're not in the hands of anybody else. You're not waiting for a printer. You're not waiting for a post office. So it definitely makes the timeline much easier to adjust to, because you're 15 days if you're trying to turn around a newsletter and get it into the hands of someone. So that's a lot of lead time to get something prepared to send out.
And we do still print copies of our newsletter that we have on property. So if somebody, wants to have it physically in their hand, we absolutely have that. At the Players Club, they can pick one up. At the hotel, they can pick one up. So because that email piece goes out to our entire database, not just those people that are receiving direct mail offers from us, as far as play-based offers, that is a substantial savings. And they can still have their cake and eat it too, because there are physical mailers available on property.
So you mentioned two things, so I'm very interested. How long was that runway of like letting people know that you were going to be doing this digitally and giving them time to give you those email addresses? Was it like a 3 month, 6 month?
It was around 3 months, and we did a pretty aggressive marketing campaign on that. We had it on all of our 4 Winds. We had it on our Yesco sign. We had basically we're everywhere that we did marketing. We were telling them, hey, we're going to go digital.
It's definitely, if you're going to push something like this and you haven't done it before, I mean, we would definitely recommend doing 3 to 4 months within your newsletter that you're already sending out via email, because you want to make sure you're getting clean email addresses. So sometimes people have given you an email address that they never check. So you want to give them the opportunity to clean up their stuff, and then also in-house having people asking every time they're getting a player's card or updating that, make sure they're updating that information. Because I mean, if you don't have good information for an email, it's not any better than sending out millions that come back to you.
So a little off topic, but did you have an incentive plan for either your employees or for customers to get those email addresses?
So we did at several different points in time have incentives where you could get free slot play if you gave us your email address. So updated at the kiosk and get X amount of free slot play.
But not for the staff, which would be a good idea for sure.
And you mentioned that that you still print the newsletter in case people want a copy. So what are those numbers like? Like how many copies of that newsletter do you print every
A
month?
very small portion. It's just enough to be where, you know, a few thousand, if you want to come in, they want to be able to grab one. And so we wanted to still have that opportunity, especially for those people that are really stuck on having that calendar on their refrigerator. We want to make sure that they have that opportunity. But I mean, it's been a few years since we went digital, and it's every year it's less and less that people want to have that tangible piece. But there is still those few. I mean, with every change, you're going to have people that do want to have that tangible piece in their hand. So when you pivot, you want to make sure that you have options for everyone. And you know, Harold and everyone made a really good decision when they did it. There's so many different options. So they kind of covered all bases when they made that change. So it's been, I mean, pretty seamless for them.
And on an up note, having the printed newsletter that doesn't actually go out to a specific person, just having ones that are printed, we have those available for our sister properties, like our RV resort, so that when people check in, they can see, oh, this is what's going on at the casino. Let's get a shuttle and go over.
Oh, that's
so,
good.
you know, we can market it easier at our other entities just to get people in the door. And it, you know, having that extra that isn't specifically only going to those people who are in our database.
Yeah. So Erin, I know that in full transparency, Wild Rose is a client, that you're still using an omni-channel approach using both physical and digital. Though I know that you're trying to move that needle a little bit more to digital. But what benefits do you see with continuing, you know, to do both? And what challenges have you faced integrating the digital?
Yeah, I think as we progress towards, you know, I don't know if it's a hard line in the sand of 100% digital, but you know, our goal is to get closer to that number just because of simply the costs of direct mail are continuing to go up and up and up. So I think the benefits of having the omnichannel approach is it does a couple things for us. It gives us a sense of a personal touch and tangibility into the promotion, especially if it's an invitational promotion where you send entries. You know, for example, like something like this where you know your entries are actually in the mailer as opposed to printed at a kiosk or something, which tend to do very, very well for us. So that's definitely one of the benefits of traditional direct mail. We have really dialed back if it's not a drawing entry or a scratch off. It's not a direct mail piece. It's definitely an email piece. So there's definitely that benefit to it. There are still people that do prefer the direct mail approach. I hear less and less about the calendar on the fridge comment. Not as much in our markets anymore. But it's still there a little bit. But as our demographic shifts younger, you know, one of the benefits of direct or digital marketing is just the speed of it. It's very, very quick. We can literally set up an email today and send it out in an hour if we need to. Iowa has since kind of relaxed its promotional rule notification, so we could technically do a drawing, you know, tomorrow and not have to give notice, just have rules on file. So that helps. So we can do that.
Don't say rules. It's not rules.
Yes, it is.
On file.
On file, rules on file. So that definitely helps. And I think the biggest part of digital marketing for us is the reminder aspect of it. We can send out a traditional direct mail piece and then follow up the day before, the day of, with an email saying, hey, don't forget you have XYZ, you know, waiting for you here. So that's definitely, you know, the pros and cons to that for us.
Now, Mary, you and I have had a conversation many times, and I remember you saying something to me that was quite clever, but also stood out in my mind, that customers see how much we love them when they get that piece of mail out of their mailbox. And you've long been an advocate of physical mail, but you did say that you do have clients that are doing digital. But when you think about this, though, what are the advantages, do you think, other than the love, that using that more traditional approach has over digital, especially with that more traditional customer base?
So I think we always have to remember that every market is different, and every market is also varies a bit on their use of digital, right? I think a lot of people moved to digital in the middle of COVID because now you go there to check on your doctor's appointments, and that
Right.
happens when you're 70 years old. You know, people are doing more online. So almost 30 years ago when I started at Station Casinos, we were trying to communicate with the customer in the mode that they preferred. So at the core of this, the rule, if you're great at customer relationship management, is you communicate with the customer the way they want to be communicated with. So in that case, there are a lot of people that do enjoy stacking up their offer from the 5 places on the street that they visit. So I work in Colorado, where our casinos are literally right next to each other. And I've sat in numerous focus groups with customers that said, well, I lay them all out. I'm going up Tuesday, and that's how I figure out how to go or where to go or what offer I want to participate in. So there is that ability, and it certainly, we all know it sticks with the customer more to have something in front of them, because even if it's not on the fridge, it's in a pile somewhere that they go to say, what's going on at da 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 on this day. So, and the other big difficulty is, do you have their email address, and what are you going to do to get it? Now, clearly, you guys have gone through this in your other classes, but what we do to build is offer to get emails. But so on the low end, I think it's getting to be almost a given that you should try and email your newsletter to the bottom of that huge pile at the bottom of the database. Remember, your database is pear-shaped, and there's not a lot of money in that bottom tier. So I think for those that really need to save money in the short term, really think about that. And then gradually move into the other tiers, because at your higher tiers, you might be able to consistently mail first or pre-sort for, at whatever discounts, and make sure it gets in home. Because those are visits that those are people that player development maybe didn't hit, that we need to gain another visit, that we need to get in the fold, new signups, just so people can ingest your full offerings. It's much easier to lose the message on an email than in a direct mail. Did I answer that?
Yeah, that makes sense. Justin, I was thinking about, I probably should have asked you the first question of the day, because you and I had a discussion years ago about properties wanting to go 100% digital. And we talked about how it's not a Band-Aid you can rip off. So, I mean, you specialize in digital marketing and reputation management. And so you see a lot of the reviews and comments that casinos are getting. What are the key factors you are recommending people consider when they start deciding to go more and more into digital, especially with our offers?
Yeah, there are a couple of things there. I mean, the first thing is, what does your email marketing look like today? What's your database look like today for email? And to really understand, what are you doing? Are we doing any kind of segment that's being emailed currently? How healthy is our database? What percentage of our players do we have an email address for? I think that's, kind of the opening thing, just to do some analysis in your database. And then the second thing is, Vicky and Annette talked about it, where, give yourself a good runway. Give yourself a really good runway to, educate and really learn the systems and the processes internally, because there's significantly more processes, different and more processes that you have to consider when you're shifting over to a digital format. Things like, list management, bounced messages, updating the database, whether those are automated processes or semi-automated, or, you're using some sort of tools for that. Like, what are they? Who's responsible for these things? All that kind of stuff, I think, is really part of the groundwork to get started. And again, the biggest one for me is always, what does it look like currently?
So Mary and Aaron, I'm gonna ask you this because I'm more familiar with Aaron's database and some of Mary's, but I mean we are getting younger customers. Sorry, Bandit wants to have his opinion counted in here. We are getting younger customers. That's not even in discussion, but still most of our customers are of a certain age, and it starts with a 6 or then, but we are getting that mix of old and new. How do you balance the communication between these diverse groups?
I think for us, we are actually skewing just a little bit younger than that. I just looked this morning just to make sure I didn't misspeak. But I think 60 is a good general age for the industry, but we are actually, Gen X is now our biggest share of revenue for us, which I am one of those, believe it or not, which is kind of scary. But anyway, I think that the balance is, as younger folks come on, they are obviously more digitally inclined to begin with. Before they even get to us, other companies have already trained them. In Iowa, sports betting is legal, so there's the opportunity for them to bet on sports through an app. We don't currently have an app, but we kind of treat our emails and our text messages like almost an app. We deploy them so they render the best as they can on a mobile device. We send a lot of things out that say show this screen or whatever at the club. And that's one thing that we've done too. We actually leaned into text messaging really, really heavy out of COVID before we leaned into email. We kind of did it backwards in most people's eyes. But I think that benefited us because we are able to associate more revenue to digital offers than we are traditional marketing, direct marketing. And I think that is just because of the way that we utilize those digital messages, using them as reminders for the lower end of the database and the lower value and the younger players using text messages over email. And I think what allows us to do that well is we apply this to email and text, but text has definitely taught us how to do this. You only have 160 characters to move your message and to sell it. So we kind of focus our emails in that same philosophy. If you can't do it in 160 characters, don't send it.
Yeah.
Right or wrong, but that's the approach we've been taking, and it seems to be working well for us. We're very, very quick to the point messaging, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Right, and I think that what hasn't changed is the people with money and time are the people that are north of 48, 50, right? So there is a great segment of people that are under 48, and it is great but they typically don't have, they might have one, but they don't have the other, right? So money and time remains the important thing here. I think Aaron's point about having clearly a digitally optimized website. So I'm thinking these text messages have a click to do something on the text message, or maybe it's just all information. But those things are awesome to bounce in lower value players for sure. Yeah. I think that I see a combination in markets that need more engagement from us. People who have become inactive, people who are new signups, people who are extraordinarily high value or need to have a hosted relationship. And once they're hosted, then you're absolutely in the method of, well, Frank likes to be texted, right. Jane likes an email, Henrietta wants me to write her a card, Frank wants me to call him, and then that's the top 1%, ideally. So again, back to the communicate in the way that they want to receive communication.
So Vicky and Annette, I know that you talked about giving people a sort of a long runway to sign up, and you didn't turn this on just like overnight.
Yeah.
What are some other tactics that you would share that we could use to mitigate kind of the risk of disenfranchising our customers?
Well, I think, I mean, we talked about it earlier, and so I think when we did launch this and we went 100% digital, we also considered other forms. So we have the portal, we have text messaging, we have the certain invites that we do send out that are still direct mail. So even though it went 100% digital, we definitely utilize the other resources. And, you know, I don't think you can go and take just one option. You have to pivot and you have to hit those other markets. Like she was saying, some people are going to want those other things. But doing that, I think you have to at least have some other options, because you're going to have people that don't want certain things, or you have, you know, not clean database, and all those options with the text messaging and having, you know, the direct mail pieces still going out. It definitely, having some additional options is important.
And I think we have a player portal, which is a really big piece. People can go there at any point in time and see what their offers are, what they still have available, what they have used, what promotions are coming up. You know, I think that is a big part of having something different for them other than just the email that they may or may not have opened. They may, or, you know, what if they actually deleted it or whatever. So, you know, having a player portal, we have a really good host team that will, you know, text people and that sort of thing once they're at that level. But I think having something more than just an email is important for the whole digital marketing piece.
So I'm going to ask you, if you could, is that like a special app that you use at Player Portal? Is it somewhere that they log in, whether they're on the desktop or the mobile device?
You can do it via the mobile or the desktop device, or mobile or your phone, but we don't have an app at this time. But it works similar to an app. So they're able to log in, they can see all their offers. You can send the messages through there. So it definitely is a great tool to use, and especially when we were pivoting from, you know, full mail to digital.
And it's just a link from our sevenfeathers.com website. So they would just go to our main website, and then it's a link to Player Portal that they would then log into.
So Aaron and Justin, have you gotten any feedback or seen any data that shows the effectiveness of the digital communications based versus the physical? And does it vary by segments or the type of channel that we use?
I think Aaron touched on it earlier. I mean, one thing that's really nice about the digital communication is kind of like that whole, you know, this meeting could have been an email kind of scenario, right? Like, you know, you have the ability to quickly get a lot of messaging through to people. Depending on, you know, what segment you're trying to reach, it can vary. You know, Hurley, we gotta fill this concert up. We need some extra seats at the show. You know, maybe you're sending a text or an email to a select group of people that's in the segment, you know, to you know, reserve their tickets or whatever. That could be done very quickly. Whereas the early, you know, newsletter that's sent out in the month, or the, you know, the one that's a physical or email, whatever, the informational email is just, this is happening this month, remember this is happening, get your tickets, etc. And then we can quickly communicate like, oh, okay, we need somebody, you know, we need people in here. The restaurant is closed for whatever reason, or we're, you know, hey, surprise, we're opening a new restaurant, right? That kind of stuff. You know, maybe you didn't have it all prepared 2 weeks before the month started, but now we've got, you know, construction is done and we're ready to open the restaurant, and we don't want to send another direct mail piece out, but we want to send, you know, information that, you know, come and visit the new restaurant or whatever. We can do that very quickly. And so I think that's the biggest thing, is that with direct, you know, with email, digital mail, it's just a lot quicker, and you can convey these messages in a way that, you know, is effective for a larger segment of players, or small, you know, or smaller segments, depending on how you want to do it. And to me, again, it just comes down to like the structure and the infrastructure being put in place early on. I mean, talking about the player portal, that was a huge huge differentiator. When those became more accessible and we could get those set up across multiple different platforms. They're not just on a desktop. You can access it on your phone. You can access it through the mobile app. You can, get your actual data there, where we don't have to send an email with your specific offers to a person and worry about, are they sharing the email address, right? If that is that our key differentiator. Well, the player portal eliminates that. You know that they are, have a specific number that's attached to their club card. So there's just advancements that have been made that have made it a lot easier for us to shift over to digital.
Aaron, have you seen any differences in the channels and your revenue or engagement, any of your metrics?
For sure. Like I said earlier, revenue, we can definitely associate that back by just making sure that we have, the digital offer code, if you will, set up to track that back. So that's definitely something we can keep track of the ROI on. One thing that we monitor very, very closely is the number of emails we capture, the number of text message opt-ins we capture, so we can measure that to see if we're continuing to grow. And we are. Fully, it has slowed down as we've gained more of those in our database, but we're still seeing growth week over week, which is great. And that's been consistent for the last 3-4 years. So that's fantastic. Another thing that we hear from guests a lot is, especially some of our older guests, they like to be able to, going back to the portal app question, we don't have either, but it's on our short list of a roadmap. Maybe. I don't know if we need an app, but a portal I get. Guests can flip back through their text messages and be like, oh yeah, you gave me all these offers. And it kind of gives us a way for them to interact with their host. So we can say, hey, can I see your phone? Let me see what your offers are. It really helps us communicate on that level as well, much better too. And we're almost using it as a portal, even though it's not. I mean, so that helps us a little bit as well. And going back to the younger demographic, they definitely prefer the digital communication. They like the simplicity of it. To Mary's points, the older demographic, not so much. We still have guests out there that have flip phones, so they don't get the emails on their phone like we intend them to be. So we do struggle with that a little bit, but I think we're making headways as we have more and more guests starting to show up around those older guests with digital offers. It kind of is pulling them in, if that makes any sense. And one thing that I think has been a benefit internally is by having to simplify the message, we're having to simplify the promotion. And that has really helped us streamline our efforts and kind of stop tripping over our own feet, if that makes any sense. Because we can complicate things in the casino world, for sure.
So I think that we can all, I think that we're all on the same page that there definitely is a balance, right? That we have to maintain. And to Mary's point, if you're really great at your CRM, it's really about talking to people where they want to be talked to and engage with us. But I feel like there's still some things that even today may just be better off as a physical piece of mail. Do you think there are any types of promotions or messages that are just better off in physical formats than in digital formats, or that maybe are more successful through physical mail?
So to Aaron's point, they're uncomplicated. They're uncomplicating, but we still have things that are complicated. I think, I believe the change in status at the higher levels needs tender communication, however it's handled. But the last thing you want to do is tell your former platinum player that they're going to dust, and you know what I mean.
Message.
I
sorry, get a new card because you're not getting any more of these benefits.
Yeah, it's over. So complicated things. I think special invites can still be so impactful, I think, at treating players' value. And then listen, if the business needs business, you gotta cast the broad net, right? So that, and yeah. So if you need more engagements from some seller, you're probably gonna need to mail to them, you know? I mean, those folks that you ain't talking to are, as Julia said earlier, maybe taking their money somewhere else. So, so reactivations, new signups, change in status, special invites, everything else ought to be not only digital, but can be click to book, click to redeem, click to add the drawing tickets, click to get in the hotel, click to get in the slot tournament, click to whatever. But sometimes we don't have that technology.
I've never seen click to add your drawing tickets.
Well, you can respond to a group. I believe there's interfaces to do that.
Okay.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah,
Aaron-
there are certain apps out there that will, if your jurisdiction allows it, we could hypothetically send a text message and say, here's your 20 bonus entries, click to activate. And if you're within the casino walls, it'll drop into the drum.
Oh, instead of swiping your card.
Right.
That's a great little discovery. So Aaron, you said that you still stand by, like when you do a mailer that's got the drawing tickets or a scratch card. I mean, have you tried viewing that event digitally?
We have.
Communicating digitally, and what was the result? If you don't mind sharing.
No, I don't. I think it's exactly as you would expect it to be. It is, the low end responds very, very well, but it's not enough, as we've discussed on the call, because they don't have as much dollars in their wallet. So it's not enough to support the integrity, the overall success of the program. So when it comes to VIP, is what I'm calling them, mostly top tiers programs, you know, if it's sorry, I'm on fuzzy background. If it's like entries in a mailer, you know, like those work very, very well for us to send out in the mail, because it gives them something, back to my original point, it's something tangible to have in their hand, to put in their purse, to carry in within the casino. And it's really not that. And let's be honest, it's really about, I have 3, you only have 2, and I'm going to show you that. Those work really well for us. Scratch offs and invitational mailers. That's about it for us. Anything that can be done electronically, we do. So
Jackpot events, probably, unless you're
true.
handing us something when they win the jackpot. If you're going to do a jackpot party after the fact, it's probably got to go in the mail.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yep.
What about Annette, you and Vicky, are there some, you mentioned there were some pieces you're still doing physical. Is it because you tried to do them digitally and you realized that they just work better physical, or?
We've not switched to digital on those items. The VIP events and special invites, special promotions, like those all go. Just a better return rate.
And it is, again, there's exclusivity. When you send them a mailer, it's an invite, you know, like, I want a party invitation, that sort of thing. We do, however, follow up with reminders, either via text or email,
Or the portal.
you know, or the portal. Remember, you've got this coming up, or we hope to see you for this event. But for actually just a special VIP touch would be the physical mailer. You're invited to see this. Again, not having anything really to do with the reinvestment rate, because we know what the reinvestment rate for that individual already is. So,
Has anybody seen any pushback from going to some digital offers, and what's been the response? Like, how do you respond to that? Justin, you must be seeing some on social.
Yeah,
because, you know, we tell everybody our business on Facebook.
Yeah, I think there's definitely, you know, you hear some stuff there. You know, usually it's going to be something like, you know, I didn't get my mail piece, how come you guys stopped doing this, something like that. And typically, you know, when you hear that kind of or if that message comes through on Facebook or somewhere, you can follow up on it. You can find out, like, oh, did their email bounce for some reason or another? Like, what was the, what's the follow up here? Can we fix that? And you can usually get back to that person with, what's going on. Generally speaking, we don't really see a whole lot of crossover, honestly, from, like people complaining about it on social. And quite frankly, I mean, I think a big part of that is a lot of the properties that we work with did go to some kind of a hybrid versus like 100% all in digital, right? There's, and in my opinion, that's the one that I really prefer. I think there's a place for direct mail. I think it's just being more strategic and more deliberate about how we're doing that, and then having the infrastructure in place to do what Aaron, both Aaron and Annette and Vicky are talking about, which is like being able to send, like for a continuity program, send them the direct mail piece, and then remind them to come in on that day or whenever their time is, right? That kind of stuff I think is just the perfect marriage of what we can do with direct and digital. And so that's where I think I don't really see that completely going away at any point. You'll see people over time opting out of that, but then it'll be that whole like, Gen Z has never received a piece of mail in the mail, so they might like it when they become a high level gamer, in 20 years or something. So I don't really see it completely going away. In my opinion, as a digital first person, I think there's just good ways to do it and really important strategies that you can put in place to do it effectively.
I mean, I would agree with that. I think that we definitely have had some people who, said we don't send out offers anymore because they're not getting them, because they're not checking their emails. And so once we, let them know it's going to your emails, you're still getting offers. But there was that little bit of lag that people were, just thought we just stopped sending offers. And I wouldn't say it's a large amount, but there's a few that definitely, but with any, reward and, trying to change something, you're going to have some sort of, sacrifices to that. So we obviously just pivoted and made sure that we reached out to people, and we have a great host team and they do a really good job. But I think you can't just pull out the carpet underneath them and then not give them any other options. So we definitely follow up the texting and the portal is such a huge brace for that.
And letting them know you're still getting offers in your account. When you come on property, your free hotel is still going to be there. Just because you didn't get the mailer for it doesn't mean it doesn't exist for you. So that's, that's comforting too. It's maybe you didn't get the mailer, but we're still going to take care of you.
Yeah, and I think one thing that's important too, and it's probably, goes along with having that longer runway of transition, is you need to be able to help support your guests through the journey. Like if that means kind of like, let me see your phone and see if it's in your spam folder, and adding them to the safe sender list and that kind of stuff. And then also doing your due diligence on what words not to put in the subject line so you don't get spammed, that kind of stuff. So to ensure your deliverability gets there, you need to really, really be careful and do your homework on that.
So let me ask you, there seems to be a lot of customer service involved in this transition.
Mm-hmm.
Who's doing the, let me look at your phone, let me make sure you're getting there? I mean, is it the host? Does that all fall on the host? Is it the Players Club? How do we train them? What is the part of the process that we never really address? And that's frontline training, right?
For us, it is post-COVID. For us, player development has kind of gone away. The traditional player development role has gone away. We are now more of customer service ambassadors, and I'm not saying that's right or wrong. That's just where we're at. So I have made sure that our hosts build that trust with the player to let them know that I can, let me see where your spam folder's at and get this taken care of for you. I would never let the front line of the club do that, but the host is who can do that if the guests will let them.
But is your club trained to be able to direct them to somebody that can help them?
Yes. There's one person on property that is authorized to tackle that. So.
Annette, what are y'all doing over at Seven Feathers?
So for us, our entire Players Club is well versed in how to help people with any need. Let me look at your phone, that of course, but also here, let me help you sign up for the player portal. And we do have a wonderful host team that does work with our higher end clientele, but we have a great great players club that sees to all the guest service needs. You know, they work a little bit as the information for the entire casino, and you know, down to things like what's your favorite place to eat at. So our team is very, very knowledgeable and has, you know, great success working with our guests.
Also, having the kiosk where they could get free play if they made sure they updated their information was a huge help. So they could go to the kiosk themselves, make sure their emails, because when you're getting a players club, you're doing it so fast. You might be at a table, you might be, you know, not at the actually players portal. So when you give them your information, you're in the middle of playing a game and your information sometimes isn't correct. So having them go check that information, make sure it is correct in the kiosk, that was a huge push as well.
I just to jump in real quick. I mean, I go to a lot of casinos, you know, just to visit and check things out and that. I always sign up for the club. There are still a lot of properties that will pass a piece of paper across the counter and say, write down your email address. I have terrible handwriting, terrible. And so like I usually, you know, I usually have my business cards on me when I visit a casino. So I'll just pass that back because they can actually read that. But I think that like having the kiosk available to be able to check your stuff and, you know, do that yourself is good. I'm curious just widely how many properties are still doing that where they just pass a piece of paper across the way versus having an app or having, you know, a kiosk or having an online sign up, you know, that's working really well for them.
We still do the paper, Justin. I'm not a fan, but I lost the vote.
Well, I went to a property that had a kiosk and I said, oh, I love the kiosk. It works so well. And the marketing director said, really? Because it's usually not working well at all.
Right.
So
we enter the information in based off the verbal interaction at the club. And then what we do the next day is we go back and audit those accounts with that piece of paper just to double check it to make sure it got entered in.
And again, that's another that's just another infrastructure thing, right? Like you know, you're doing daily checks on it. Sorry, Marion. Go ahead.
No. I have a client with Konami and we're snapping a QR code and taking it into a player portal to update email address information. And I think it's a help. I know there's other kiosks that do that, but I haven't found player tracking that had that kind of access to it. Is good when the player, for permission perspectives, I believe is why we're doing the paper thing, right? Because we want to be able to prove to someone that we have permissions or at least show them the pile.
Right.
But at any rate, there might be some insights in player tracking that'll help us get more emails and more updates. Yeah, I'm with you on the kiosk thing.
Yeah. And one thing we did too that I forgot to mention, we did our first one this year. We'll probably make it an annual thing, if not biannual, is kind of a roadshow where we set up a promotional booth on the floor and send out like everyone in the database gets $10 if they update their phone, email, text, opt in, even if you already are. And it just gives us a chance to spot check that and then also answer any questions and do the whole check your spam folder stuff. So
do you have any, how did you do in terms of new information?
Very, very well. We've got a lot of updates, a lot of missing .coms, a lot of missing @ symbols, but I think we saw that was our biggest spike this year in 2024 was the day that we did that event. And it was also a very, very good revenue day because we treated it like a promotion.
Even better.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we're nearing the end. And so I guess I want to ask, Justin, I think that you see a headline that says Gen Z has never received a piece of mail, but you know, what do you see the future of casino marketing heading toward in terms of how we communicate with customers directly? What do you see like 5-10 years down the road? Like, what's it going to look like in your head?
I mean, we'll just have a direct to brain kind of connection. You know, at that point, it'll be Siri will remind you, you know, that you've got offers available at a casino without you having to check it. I mean, honestly, there's going to be some wild stuff coming down the pike. But I do think that what we're doing now is adjusting to the demand for, you know, better digital communications.
Yes.
There's tons of people on social media. The social media platforms and popularity will change. Everything will kind of change, but the need to actually know that how the infrastructure works, I think, is the biggest thing. And I think that's what Wild Rose and Seven Feathers are really good examples of properties that took the time to understand what their players needed and what what it was going to take to get them into that digital format in an effective way. And so I think that's what's really important right now, is just understand the infrastructure and the things that you need to make those successful programs. And then all the crazy stuff that'll keep happening in the future, we're a little bit closer to it.
So ladies, what are you seeing? What do you
Um,
think the future looks like for Seven Feathers and its communication with customers?
I think that more casinos will go to having an app where it's all inclusive, where everything runs through one, even for hotel, casino,
And you just
food,
push the
travel.
notifications out.
Yep, and the notifications just get pushed out. But I think it'll be a lot more AI based. Yes, like Justin said, it's going to be pretty crazy in 5 to 10 years. So things are rapidly changing digitally. So I can't even imagine what it's going to be like. But I think it'll be a lot more streamlined. And I don't think direct mail will ever go away completely. I agree with Justin on that. But I do think that will be something that we just do for special occasions or high end. So it'll be a lot more digital based for sure in the future, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Mary, what do you think? What does the future hold?
I think we're more dependent on what happens with the United States Postal Service than you might imagine. I mean, I am not sure that they want to have a guy in a car in rural Minnesota sticking mail in mailboxes along a busy road for a long time. And I think things are going to probably evolve with our mail system. Like, I mean, there's a lot of countries that don't have a mail system. So that would be point number one. I think it might be out of our control, number one. And number two, I think it still pays to mail. It still is, it has a strong ROI. Can you save some money and spend that money more powerfully by especially low end newsletters going digitally? I think that's great. I would just be careful. Can people see this?
I can see that there's like I can't read it.
100. See, I'm just going to say this. We're going to make sure your taglines are right. I've gotten 30 emails from Caesars this month that either say Caesars Rewards Air or, please.
Your
please
preview text.
be fresh.
Yeah.
Be fresh. Because people, grandma, I'm 60, I'm a boomer, I'm whatever. I figured out folders on my email probably in 1995. But at any rate, I think it might be out of our hands. I think we have to make sure that we can continue to communicate appropriately and with an interesting message to our guests.
So the battle of the mailbox is just going to go digital.
Well, it is just the battle of the mailbox has always been the battle for the customer's attention in every venue, right? You have to get them in the door, and unless you've got great online gaming connected, but you have to get them in the door.
Yeah. Aaron, what are you seeing? What do you think?
I think that there's some great points that are brought up here, as I'm working on some things as it pertains to boot camp, and navigating change. I think an outside influence is going to change our industry. And I think Mary's absolutely right. It's going to be the post office. At some point, they're going to say, if it doesn't fit in a A4 envelope or whatever the hell that is, we're not mailing it. And we're going to be forced to change. So I think the more work we can do between now and then, whenever that day comes, the better. I think that long term, we need to think about what that all-inclusive app is. It's offers, it's my player's card, it's cashless. Whatever that feature looks like, it needs to fit on that app. And I think we'd be foolish not to think about all those moving parts as we march towards that, because there's no way a guest is going to want to manage 14 different portals or apps or text messages just to redeem their offer. It's got to be centralized. So I think that's where we got to be mindful. I think we got to be very, very cautious. I think that's what I see in our future. Because I think technology is going to change us other than us trying to evolve into it.
Well, thank you everyone for joining me on our last webinar. I really appreciate the discussion. I think that we as an industry need to really realize that our customer is engaging with multiple different businesses, and they get used to certain things, and we have to see what they're liking in their conversations with Amazon, with Uber, with Instacart, with their banks. You know, how are they living digitally, and how can we adapt so that those habits that they develop benefit us? Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Thanks for
I'll see
having
you
us.
at boot camp.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.